there are 5 people on board a vessel bound for the wreckage of the Titanic, and they are trapped inside a space that is just the size of a minivan.
We have got the last message sent by the Titan submarine crew. It just got revealed during an inquiry, and it is shocking. Since the announcement of the rescue mission, everyone has been captivated about the situation. Every news media is talking about it. Until now, almost no one knows exactly what happened, but the recent hearings and evidence puts a lot of things into perspective. What was the last call, the last message? On June 18, 2023, about an hour into their dive, the crew reached a depth of 1,200,000 feet and sent a message that simply said, "All good here." This brief note carried their hopes and reassured the Polar Prince, their support ship above. Little did anyone know it would be one of their last communications. As they continued deeper into the ocean, a quiet tension began to settle in, and suddenly, alarms went off. The crew quickly scrambled to understand what was happening. What started as an exciting adventure shifted into a moment of concern. Just before losing contact, they sent one last message. "We've dropped 2 weights," and then silence. The Polar Prince waited for updates that never came. Minutes turned into hours of growing worry among those on board. The crew of Titan had vanished into the depths without a trace, leaving behind unanswered questions. What happened in those final moments? Did they face an unexpected issue? The investigation into the Titan disaster would soon uncover truths about deep-sea exploration and those brave individuals who ventured where few have gone before. What secrets lie beneath those waves? The answers were hard to find, but the court hearing has started, and it is revealing a lot. The hearing. The U.S. Coast Guard's Marine Board of Investigation is currently holding hearings to figure out what went wrong with the Titan submersible disaster. This tragic event, which occurred during a dive to the Titanic wreck in June 2023, resulted in the loss of 5 lives. The investigation is shining a light on troubling testimonies from former OceanGate employees, industry experts, and family members, all raising serious concerns about the company's safety practices. After the Titan imploded, the authorities stepped in to take a closer look at OceanGate's safety protocols and accountability. These hearings are designed to break down what happened before the fatal dive and see if there were enough safety measures in place. It's a big deal because the findings could help improve safety for future underwater explorations. One of the most powerful testimonies came from David Lockridge, who used to be OceanGate's Director of Marine Operations. He has been very open about his worries regarding the Titan's design and construction. Lockridge stated clearly, "I had absolutely no confidence in how the submersible was built." He even called himself a troublemaker because he often spoke up about safety issues, pointing out serious flaws in the Titan's carbon fiber hull that could endanger safety during dives. He felt let down by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration for not investigating his complaints more thoroughly. He said, "I believe that if they had attempted to investigate the seriousness of the concerns I raised on multiple occasions, this tragedy may have been prevented." To make matters worse, 8 months after filing his complaint, he learned there were still 11 cases ahead of his for investigation. The hearings also revealed a concerning culture at OceanGate that seemed to put profit over safety. Lockridge mentioned that there was a lot of pressure to get the Titan into the water quickly. He bluntly stated, the whole idea behind the company was to make money. There was very little in the way of science. This focus on profit extended to decisions made by CEO Stockton Rush, who Lockridge described as erratic and tough to work with. As these testimonies continue over the next 2 weeks, they are expected to reveal not just what went wrong with the Titan, but also how similar failures can be avoided in future underwater explorations. The families affected by this tragedy are looking for answers, hoping this inquiry will bring them closure and help ensure that such incidents don't happen again. The heartbreaking implosion of the Titan submersible during its descent to the Titanic wreck has raised a lot of questions about safety and oversight in deep-sea exploration. This tragic event, which resulted in the loss of 5 lives, has caught everyone's attention and sparked discussions about how we can do better in the future. A key player in this investigation is the U.S. Navy, which detected important sounds that hinted at what was happening long before it became public knowledge. So, let me break it down for you. What did the Navy's find? Let's set the scene. Just after the Titan lost communication with its support vessel, Polar Prince, the U.S. Navy's advanced acoustic detection systems picked up sounds that were alarmingly similar to a catastrophic implosion. This detection happened just hours after the submersible began its descent into the icy waters of the North Atlantic, where it was supposed to explore one of history's most famous shipwrecks. The Navy's ability to catch these sounds was crucial. They confirmed that something terrible had happened, leading to the immediate loss of all 5 passengers on board. The Navy has invested heavily in technology and training over the years, allowing them to monitor underwater sounds for various purposes. In this case, their expertise turned out to be vital. The acoustic signals they detected weren't just random noises. They were critical indicators that something had gone horribly wrong, highlighting how important these technologies are for keeping people safe during risky underwater missions. They used high-tech sonar systems and underwater listening devices designed mainly for military use. These tools are great at picking up all sorts of underwater sounds, including wreckage from submerged vessels or other significant events happening beneath the waves. The Navy employs various sophisticated equipment like hydrophones, devices that detect sound underwater, and sonar arrays that can scan large areas of the ocean floor. These tools help them analyze sounds with impressive accuracy. The quick detection of these acoustic signals not only showed off the Navy's capabilities, but also emphasized how urgent search and rescue operations were. Time was of the essence, and every second counted in hopes of finding survivors. But in a decision blending operational priorities with national security concerns, the Navy initially decided not to confirm the implosion publicly. They wanted to focus all their resources on search and rescue efforts, clinging to hope that survivors might still be found somewhere in the wreckage. By keeping details under wraps, they aimed to maintain operational integrity and avoid causing unnecessary panic. However, as time passed and hope faded, it became clear that any chance for survival had disappeared in mere milliseconds as the vessel succumbed to crushing ocean pressure. The forces at play during such an implosion are beyond what any human body can handle. As time went on and hope dwindled, it became increasingly evident that this was not just a simple expedition gone wrong, but a catastrophic failure with serious implications. But what are these strange sounds exactly? They're unusual noises that can tell us a lot about what's going on beneath the waves, including possible problems with submersibles. These sounds are often too quiet for us to hear, but they hold important clues about the safety of underwater vehicles and their surroundings. Understanding these sounds is super important for keeping deep-sea explorers safe. But for the most part, the public didn't understand how the Navy was almost concluding that it was an implosion. There were even memes made. Before we dive into what the public thought, though, and judge, you need to understand the conditions. See, there were some strange things that seemed suspicious in the reportings. The announcement was made in a chilling video from the upcoming documentary, Minute by Minute, The Titan Sub Disaster, which aired on Channel 5. Experts think these sounds might have been someone knocking against metal, creating a sense of urgency and optimism during the search efforts. They were recorded about 1 hour and 45 minutes into Titan's descent, right when communication was lost with its support vessel, the Polar Prince. The noises had an unusual symmetry that made some experts wonder if the passengers were still alive. However, as they looked closer, they found that these sounds could come from a few different sources. One idea is that the sounds were echoes bouncing off objects in the Titanic debris field. It's kind of like marbles rattling inside a tin can. Those echoes could create rhythmic noises. Another thought is that marine animals, like whales, could have made similar noises. This theory adds another twist to the investigation, since it makes it harder to figure out where those sounds really came from. There was also some speculation about whether human-made noises could have played a part in what was detected. While this idea isn't confirmed, it definitely adds to the mystery. But the last known thing right now is that the US Navy detected acoustic strange sounds, or anomalies as they call it, shortly after Titan lost contact, which they described as consistent with an implosion. This detection played a crucial role in understanding what happened during the dive and led to a significant search operation in the North Atlantic. The implosion ultimately resulted in the tragic loss of all 5 passengers aboard. Now, we all know how much of a big news this thing has been, right? But what about the people? The Titan submersible tragedy has hit hard, leaving families of the victims in deep sorrow and anger. Take Hamish Harding's family, for example. He was a well-known British businessman and adventurer, and his loved ones are speaking out about their pain. His stepson, Brian Saz, shared a heartfelt message. "We want to know what happened to my stepdad and why he was allowed to go on this trip without proper safety measures." This feeling is shared by many families who want a thorough investigation into OceanGate's practices. They worry that important safety warnings were ignored before the dive. As the hearings began, families like that of Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, faced a whirlwind of emotions. They are looking for justice for their loved ones and answers to prevent future tragedies. The family of another victim, Shahzada Dawood, expressed their hope for transparency in the investigation, saying, "We hope this inquiry will shed light on what went wrong so that no other family has to suffer like we have." Their desire for clarity shows how much these families want to ensure that lessons are learned from this heartbreaking event. The media has played a huge role in shaping how people view the Titan incident. News outlets like CNN and BBC quickly reported on the disaster, often focusing on the dramatic rescue efforts. For instance, headlines like "Titan submersible disappears, a race against time" grabbed attention, but often overlooked the human side of the tragedy. Social media also became a hotspot for discussion, though not always in a respectful way. Many users found humor in the situation, poking fun at the wealthy individuals aboard the submersible. Memes spread quickly, including one showing a luxury yacht with the caption, "When you pay for an adventure, but get a disaster instead." Journalist Dan Rather pointed out that laughter at tragedy is not humor. It's a reflection of our society's moral compass. His comment reminds us that sometimes humor can hide deeper issues. As investigations continued, media outlets started to dig deeper into OceanGate's practices. Reports revealed serious concerns raised by former employees about safety protocols and engineering decisions. For example, David Lockridge, a former operations director at OceanGate, claimed in an NBC News interview that he had warned about design flaws with the Titan before being let go in 2028. This change in focus shifted the story from just being about tragedy to looking closely at corporate responsibility in risky ventures. With ongoing hearings expected to reveal more about OceanGate's internal decisions and communications, many are left wondering, what new truths will come to light? Will these findings lead to real changes in regulations for deep-sea exploration? The answers could not only change how people view this incident, but also impact industry standards as we all think about what this tragedy means for future ocean explorations. So let's dissect this together. What are the implications for future safety? Before we answer that, we need to know the final result of the investigations that are being dug deep into the details, looking at how it was built and the rules about deep-sea exploration. The main goal, they're examining key evidence and listening to important testimonies. Former OceanGate employees and safety experts are speaking up, all calling for better safety measures. Everyone agrees on one thing: if we don't make changes, more tragedies could happen in future expeditions. This suggests it might be time to overhaul deep-sea exploration regulations. Companies need a wake-up call to put safety first. In such a risky field, safety has to be the priority. Think about it. No new tech is worth even one human life. As hearings continue and more details emerge, the big question remains: what can we learn from this tragedy that took 5 lives? These answers aren't just academic. They could change how we approach deep-sea adventures. It's like we're on the brink of a new era, where safety is the core of every mission. Thinking about this tragedy makes us consider how to prevent such incidents in the future. What if deep-sea exploration put human life at the very center? And this case also puts other related ambitious scientific projects, like commercial space travel, on the spotlight. The incident, which resulted in the loss of all 5 crew members, shows the dangers of pushing technological boundaries without stringent oversight. While submersibles have some industry standards, certification is not mandatory, a situation mirrored in the space tourism sector with companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. This lack of rigorous regulation raises critical questions about safety and accountability in both fields. The true measure of progress in deep-sea exploration is not just how far we can go, but how safely we can get there. The ultimate tribute to those we've lost would be a future where such tragedies are history, replaced by a new standard of safety and success in exploration. So, what's the aftermath? What's happening to the industry after this? After the devastating Titan submersible tragedy, OceanGate made a tough but inevitable call on July 6, 2023. They officially halted all exploration and commercial activities. In a statement on their website, OceanGate confirmed that they were pausing operations while investigations into the incident were underway. It's a move that echoes Boeing's decision to ground its 737 MAX planes following 2 fatal crashes, both companies facing pivotal moments where they're forced to rethink priorities, safety protocols, and their place in their respective industries. One of the immediate ripple effects of the Titan disaster was the growing debate over who should bear the financial burden for rescue missions in private deep-sea explorations. Searching for the Titan wasn't cheap. Multiple countries threw in ships, underwater drones, and manpower to try to locate the sub. For instance, the U.S. Coast Guard and Canadian forces reportedly spent millions on the search operation. Naturally, this raised an uncomfortable question: should private companies like OceanGate be responsible for footing the bill? Or is it fair to ask taxpayers to shoulder the cost? This situation drew parallels to other high-profile incidents, like when BP was held accountable for the rescue and cleanup efforts following the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. The financial consequences of this incident are massive, and with them come important conversations around responsibility and who ultimately should pay for these rescue efforts. This event also ignited broader discussions about the use of taxpayer dollars to fund rescue operations for companies that engage in high-risk ventures. Critics have been vocal, suggesting that if businesses want to dive into risky activities, literally in this case, they should also take on the financial responsibility for potential rescue missions. Imagine if a mining company caused a disaster. Most would expect that company to pay for the rescue and recovery efforts. So why should deep-sea exploration companies get a pass? As more details surfaced about safety warnings that were reportedly ignored during the Titan's design process, there were louder and more urgent calls for tighter regulations around deep-sea exploration and operations. Many now argue that the industry has been allowed to push boundaries without enough oversight, and it's time for that to change. Could the disaster have been prevented? Ever thought about how the whole Titan sub disaster could have been avoided? It really comes down to some pretty basic stuff. Let's break it down. First off, let's talk about the shape of these deep-sea submarines. Most of these underwater explorers have spherical hulls. Why spheres? Because they handle crazy deep-sea pressure really well. Think about it. The pressure gets spread out evenly with no weak spots. The Titan, though? It had a cylindrical shape. Might seem like a small difference, but it's massive. Cylindrical shapes don't handle pressure as evenly, especially in the middle. This major design flaw was the beginning of Titan's trouble. If they'd gone with the proven spherical design, things might have turned out much better. Seriously, sometimes it's smart to stick with the basics. Now let's talk about the materials. Titan's hull was made from carbon fiber composite. Sounds high-tech, but here's the catch. Carbon fiber isn't reliable under deep-sea pressure when compared to titanium. Titanium is like the heavyweight champ. It can handle all the pressure and keep going strong. Experts had been saying for a while that carbon fiber can be unpredictable in deep conditions. Some serious testing could have flagged this issue early on. Imagine test driving a car to check for any problems before you commit. That's what should have happened here. If they had done these tests right the way, they might have spotted the weak points in Titan's hull and fixed them, dodging disaster. Unlike most other subs that get checked and approved by outside experts, Titan skipped this step. No joke. There was no independent scrutiny to catch design or safety flaws. Think about how handy it would be to have a third party check out your work. It's like having a second pair of eyes to look over your homework. If they had mandatory third party evaluations, they could have caught any problems early on, making sure Titan was up to safety standards. So, looking at these aspects, design choices, material testing, and independent certifications, we get a clear picture of what went wrong with Titan. But that is not all the issues. Operational practices. Experts in the deep-sea diving community were sounding alarms about the Titan's design flaws well before it set off. They pointed out significant operational risks, but Stockton Rush, CEO of OceanGate, brushed off these concerns as baseless. He even went so far as to fire a director who dared to raise a red flag about safety. If they had an open, receptive culture where feedback is welcomed and safety protocols are crucial, with that kind of mindset, perhaps crucial adjustments could have been made before taking the plunge into the unknown. Now, let's talk about communication. You wouldn't rely on smoke signals to navigate modern-day traffic, would you? But in a jaw-dropping twist, the Titan depended on simple text messages from its support vessel for navigation. Imagine if they had utilized advanced acoustic monitoring systems, those high-tech gadgets that give you real-time data on how your underwater vessel is holding up. These systems could have sent out immediate alerts about any imminent dangers during the dive, potentially saving the day. Technical wizardry is a game changer. And speaking of which, how about improved hull integrity monitoring with advanced sensors and cutting-edge technology, keeping a vigilant eye on the hull, assessing its integrity during the dive? It's like having a personal watchdog sniffing out any structural weaknesses or impending failures before they turn into catastrophes. While these systems are pretty standard in aerospace and marine engineering, they were noticeably absent in the Titan's design. Just think about the vital data that could have been collected to avert disaster. Why should you care? Not everyone might be into science, but we all care about where our money goes. I know we already brushed over this, but it's crazy to think about how much of our tax money gets spent on scientific projects, and it's not always clear how it's divided up. Take the rescue mission for the Titan submersible, for example. It cost taxpayers millions. The U.S. Coast Guard alone spent about $1,200,000, and that's not even counting what other agencies paid. This makes you wonder, should our tax really be used for private missions, especially for the super rich? And this is not a one-off incident. A lot of people think climate change research is in the same category. It's crucial for understanding how our environment is changing, but some people aren't convinced. They say the climate models aren't reliable and question if this is the best use of money. Still, governments worldwide pour loads of cash into this, often giving it to universities and research centers. Next, there's stem cell research. This one really gets people talking, especially when it involves embryonic stem cells. The ethical debates over using human embryos make things heated. In the US, the amount of federal funding can change a lot depending on who's in charge, but a lot of taxpayer money keeps going into these projects. Animal testing is another big topic. Animal rights activists argue that testing on animals for things like medicines and cosmetics is just wrong. But governments say it's necessary for approving new drugs, meaning a lot of public money goes into these tests. And then there is the big one, nuclear fusion research, which is also controversial. It's seen as the next big thing in clean energy, but some people think it gets too much funding compared to its actual potential. Projects like the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor get heaps of public money and are known for their high costs and delays, which makes people suspicious. And let's not forget another hot one. People worry about how safe genetically modified organisms are to eat and their impact on the environment. Despite these concerns, governments give grants to biotech researchers to develop new genetically modified crops, which not everyone is happy about. Lastly, there's space exploration. It's exciting, but very expensive. Critics argue that the money could be better spent on problems here on Earth. Yet, agencies like NASA get billions of dollars in taxpayer money for missions to Mars and launching satellites. And did you hear about the Voyager 1 incident? It seems like the satellite has found some aliens. I am not lying. Even NASA is confused by what happened. Right now, this thing is so far into the deep end that the sun's light can't even reach it. And you know who is paying for this scientific milestone? Yeah, you and me. And the crazy part? Right now, some unknown thing is sending message signals using it. We can't cover everything right now, but we have made a video on it. So thanks for watching, and go watch that one.